The feasts are only for Jewish people. Fib or fact? Hello, I'm Olivier with Shalom and Messiah Ministries. So, people ask me all the time, is it okay for non-Jewish Christians to celebrate the Jewish feasts? The feasts are found in Leviticus 23. They're all delineated one after the other. You have a few verses at the beginning about Shabbat, and then, which is a weekly occurrence, and then you have a few verses per feast, all of the 7, all throughout, I believe, the last verse, which is verse 44. And they come in a specific order on the Jewish calendar. Now, the first question or the first comment I'd like to make is that when you read Leviticus 23, which of course was written to Jewish people, was written to Israel originally, they're never called the Feast of Israel or the feast or the Jewish feast or even the Levitical feast. What are they called? If you look in the first couple of verses, they're called the Feast of the Lord, or the appointed times, moedim in Hebrew, of the Lord, the feast of the Lord. So these are the feast of the Lord that he gave to the children of Israel to celebrate on a yearly basis on the calendar, except for Shabbat, which is of course on a weekly basis, but on a yearly basis on the Jewish calendar. And so the question is, what do we do with them now? Well, what we find out when we look at them a little more closely is that every single one of the feasts, from Passover to first fruit to Pentecost, to Rosh Hashanah, to Yom Kippur, to the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot, all have a prophetic significance as they pertain to the redemptive career of the Messiah. What I mean by that is every single one of the feasts is connected to an event in the life and ministry of Yeshua, Jesus, the Messiah. So in short, Passover is being fulfilled by the death of Messiah. Then unleavened bread was fulfilled by the sinlessness of his death. Then the next one is first fruit, which was fulfilled by the resurrection of the Messiah, an important event, critical event. And then Pentecost, 50 days after Passover, the Feast of Weeks, 7 weeks, 49 days, plus 1 day after Passover is the Feast of Weeks, Pentecost. And that was fulfilled, as you see in Acts 2, by the birth of the church, the birth of the body of Messiah. Those all happen at the first coming of Jesus. Then you have a church age, so to speak, an interval of time, and that interval of time is actually mentioned in Leviticus 23:22, which is a verse that doesn't seem to fit anywhere. It talks about gleaning and harvesting. Well, what are we doing in a church age between the birth of the church and the taking away of the church? We are doing our best as believers to harvest souls for the kingdom of Messiah. So that's where we are right now. Then there's a second coming, and the second coming will take place in the future, and there will be a Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. Now remember, an event doesn't have to, a feast doesn't have to be, how do I say that? An event doesn't have to happen on the day of the feast to fulfill it, which is important for the rapture. Thematically, the rapture or the regathering of the saints will fulfill Rosh Hashanah, the Feast of Trumpets. The Yom Kippur, the fulfillment, Yom Kippur will be fulfilled by the Great Tribulation, a time of affliction for Israel, which is the theme of the Great Tribulation, the main theme. And then Sukkot, the coming back at the end of the tribulation of the saints with Yeshua to have him, the king, the Davidic king, come in and inaugurate the kingdom. Not until then. Inaugurate the kingdom, the millennial kingdom, the messianic kingdom, the millennium. And we will dwell with him. It will be a feast of ingathering on earth with Yeshua for 1,000 years before we enter the eternal order. So the feasts all have a connection to a specific event in the redemptive career of the Messiah. So, without going overboard, without going ultra kosher, ultra crazy on everything, if you want to celebrate the feast as you see them celebrating an event in the Messiah, as they point to Messiah, if you recognize the connection with Messiah, and if you recognize how they were either fulfilled or will be fulfilled at the second coming, then there is great beauty in celebrating the feasts of the Lord. So the feast are only for Jewish people. Fib or fact? Definitely a fib. Enjoy the feasts, enjoy your relationship with Messiah Yeshua, and be blessed.